Hello and welcome back to the Nasty Metal Productions channel here at YouTube, and welcome to another Album of the Week video. This is episode number 208. Today's episode, I will be putting a spotlight on what is one of my favorites from these guys. That is Another Perfect Day, the seventh That Counts for On Parole studio album from the legendary late Motörhead. Originally released on June 4th of 1983, though Wikipedia says May, but Metal Archives this time had a specific date. So I went with Metal Archives this time for a change. Via both Bronze Records, Europe, and Mercury Records, both United States and Canada. And since yesterday was the 4th, this has already turned 40 years old. So this is perfect, sorry for the pun, timing to celebrate. So with all that said, let's begin. By 1982, after the release of Iron Fist, the situation was far from stable, mostly between Fast Eddie Clarke and Lemmy Kilmister. Eddie was beginning to venture into producing, which had started with Iron Fist, then followed by with Tank's debut album, Filth Hounds of Hades. Eddie would contribute to Twisted Sister's debut album, Under the Blade, that very same year, but during that time, Eddie was getting frustrated with Motörhead. Eventually he would leave. Of course, he would start up Fastway, originally with Pete Way of UFO, but once Pete Way decided that he got, let's just say, a little sour with the whole project, he went off, of course, to form Wasted, and Fastway just became Fast Eddie Clarke's band. Of course, Eddie and Lemmy would share the stage on several occasions over the years, but would never officially rejoin Motörhead. Thus brings in ex-Thin Lizzy and, at the time, current Wild Horses guitar player Brian Robertson, who would add in a different tone to Motörhead's bombastic brand of heavy rock and roll, thus leading to Another Perfect Day, Motörhead's most misunderstood album. With Tony Platt, best known for working with AC/DC, Crocus, Starfighters, Samson, and Testament, just to mention some, this time being behind the producer's chair. The recording process spanned from February till March of 1983 at both the Olympic Studios and Eel Pie Studios, both in London, and at least 11 songs was recorded, but only 10 were chosen, with the 11th track, Turn You Round Again, being used as a B-side to the single for I Got Mine. And on June 4th, Another Perfect Day arrived to a very polarized fan base. So, featuring 10 tracks, clocking at the length of 44 minutes and 9 seconds, the longest Motörhead album to date up to that point. So these 10 tracks are, well, of course, beginning with Back at the Funny Farm, Shine, Dancing on Your Grave, Rocket, One Track Mine, the title track, Marching Off to War, I Got Mine, Tales of Glory, and then finally ending with Die You Bastard. So there you go. There's your 10 tracks. When this was first released, the fan base response to this was not so kind. Some liked this album, but diehards at the time hated this album. It is pretty different, mostly due to Brian Robertson's style, which comes at no surprise. Lemmy would recall in the documentary film The Guts and the Glory what was like recording with Brian. To give an exact quote here, and a very expletive, and I mean expletive, because this is Lemmy, folks, it's Lemmy. So, to quote here, goddamn, do I have to really to do my best Lemmy impression while quoting this? Maybe I may have to. Recording Another Perfect Day was fucking torture. Brian, he'd take 17 hours doing a guitar track. It fucking took so long compared to the other albums. And then when it was released, everybody fucking hated it. So yeah, there's your Lemmy Kilmister, folks. So while I can understand why this album was so disliked, but over the years people have begun to revisit this misunderstood classic and have now reevaluated their initial thoughts, with them finally seeing what this album truly is, a surprisingly cool combination of Thin Lizzy and Motörhead. I can't tell you how many times that I've spent cutting my virgin teeth onto this album. To tell you the truth, as much as I love their other albums, again, Overkill and Ace of Spades are still my two favorites, but there are most days where I will instantly go and pull this one first whenever I want to jam out to some Motörhead. It's been one of my true go-to Motörhead albums. There are so many smoking barn burners here, from the prime classic track Back at the Funny Farm to then boogie rockers like Shine and the Chuck Berry influenced Rocket, to then the explosiveness of Marching Off to War, then ending off with 3 other prime motor bangers. But in between is when you get a decent dose of Brian's contributions, like for instances, Dancing on Your Grave. It's a rocker, but with more melody and has those ingredients that you heard in Thin Lizzy, or at times maybe in Gary Moore. Then there are One Track Mind and the title track. One Track Mind is a slow, bluesy track that derivated from their core sound. Of course, I'm not gonna lie, this was one of the songs that sold me on Another Perfect Day. It was a shock, but a pleasant shocker, cause I was already into Thin Lizzy, so it felt like the best of both worlds for me. Then there is the title track, a bit more rockin' in its attack, but still retains that same melodic nature that you got on One Track Mind. But both are infectious songs that I can't help but kick back, smile, and enjoy, making this album an instant favorite for me. There just isn't a track that I don't love. Now, I need to bring this up, but last week I told the story about the miserable Oregon trip and how Dio's Holy Diver got me through that whole shit show. Well, when I got back, my mom felt sorry and made it up to me and ordered the deluxe edition off of Overstock. And when I received it in the mail, my whole week was a blast, just jamming out to both discs, cause the second disc is an entire live show that was recorded at the Manchester Apollo on June 10th of 1983, just a week after its initial release, and it captures an interesting time in Motörhead's history. I know Brian was stubborn about playing most of the hits, but what he did agree to, his performance is quite awesome. Sure, here and there might be some small little mistakes, but it ain't a live show without any of those human ingredients, you know? It ain't a true live show. You know what I mean? But it's a raw performance, making it one of my favorite live Motörhead discs. Of course, the recording is very good, nonetheless. Of course, after Another Perfect Day, Brian would leave. Brian Robertson has stated that he never liked Motörhead, but he respected what they did. But there's no denying that he was a bit of a prima donna when he was with them, let alone wearing the tackiest shit on stage that had him get made fun of for. So all in all, it was a once-in-a-lifetime thing, but unfortunately, Phil Taylor would also leave, being replaced by ex-Saxon drummer Pete Gill. In Brian's place, Lemmy would go different, opting to become a quartet by acquiring then ex-Persian Risk guitar player Phil Campbell and young newcomer, the late great Michael Wurzel Burston. This lineup led to 6 awesome songs on the great classic No Remorse compilation and the underrated Orgasmatron. After that album, Pete Gill would leave and Phil the Animal Taylor would rejoin, and thus leading to Rock and Roll, which was my very first Motörhead album to ever physically own. After that, the rest is history. So 40 years for Another Perfect Day. If you have any thoughts or memories to share, if they are positive or negative, you can leave them all in the comment section below. But if you have never listened to Another Perfect Day, I say go out of your way and check it out. So this is Heavy Thrasher saying I am out, and I'll see you all later. Take care, everyone.